Hey everybody, welcome back to TMB with Miss J. Of course, you guys know I am your hostess with the mostest, Miss Simone Jackson, aka Miss J. Always here to bring you guys the TMB with a smile. Of course, you guys know the T means we're giving you the tea, and of course, you guys are having lunch or breakfast time. It's time for that B. But here, of course, we are here to get down to the interviews and the topics of today. I am very, very excited for our next guest. He is a songwriter. He is a singer. He is a music producer. He is a songwriter. He has been doing this thing since, for a while, but he's only 17 years old. I know, kind of makes me feel like, what the heck was I doing at 17? But hey, his accomplishments has been great, and I'm really super excited to have him here today. Please, everyone, give a big, warm welcome to Miss Noah Taylor. Hello, Noah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Uh,
I'm so thrilled.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Of course, the audience here at TMV has been checking out your work for a minute, so I know they're going to be really excited to have you on here. And again, you have been doing so much, and you're only literally 17. But before you blow up into huge, huge pop star status, I appreciate you being here today.
I am excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Noah, I'm going to fire off the first question at you. Here we want to start off, can you tell me what really began your passion for music and singing?
Yeah, so music has always been a really big part of my life. Even from when I was, really little, when it was like the Australian kids band, like the Wiggles, and putting on like concerts in my house for my parents.
I love it.
Yeah, everybody started saying that. And then I think just growing up, so I grew up traveling full time. I've never attended like a formal education.
Oh.
So I grew up traveling full time in an RV in like a mobile home with my family. My dad traveled a lot for work, so it was always about keeping the family together. So that was our lifestyle, and long hours on the road and traveling, and you have to find something to do with all of that time.
Oh, yeah.
So other than reading a lot of books, making music sort of became something to do. It became an easy way to pass the time. Was I had like a little laptop mic, and my friends and I, who their family traveled with us, we used to set up a laptop in the back of an RV with like an Apple headphone microphone and do like acapella. Used to write like acapella songs in the back of the trailer on GarageBand, and that was those were the beginnings of my musical journey. And then I think I didn't write music for a couple of years. Just we came off, we left the RV and we moved to Charleston, South Carolina, just to kind of settle down. We were growing up. I have 2 siblings, and it was just a really cramped space, 45 feet of trailer. So we decided we needed some space, and around that time was when Katy Perry's Teenage Dream record and Maroon 5's Overexposed records were both. I think Teenage Dream had already been out since like 2010, but that was the first time that I had really heard those records. And sorry if you hear my dog in the background.
Oh, no.
That was the first time I heard those records. I remember the one that got away off of Teenage Dream, and then just most of Overexposed really hit me as sort of. I had always been. I never wanted to make pop music. I always grew up around more like singer-songwriter, and my family's from the South, so like country music, and I had never been introduced to like a ton of pop music aside from what was on the radio. And I remember that was the first time that I heard pop music tell a story. And I think that was what drew it to me the most, was just that something, complicated, and this beautiful story was being told in a way that was really digestible. And I think that's still what I really love about good pop music, is that anybody can relate to it at the end of the day, no matter how complicated the message is. I think those are the best songs that are just, easy to relate to. So that's why I make what I make.
I totally agree with the whole pop telling a story with Katy Perry's, Teenage Dream. Every time I listen to that, I always go back to my teenage years. That it just brings me back to, those carefree teenage days. So I totally get what you're saying on that one. So going on to the number 2 there question, Mr. Noah. Kind of playing off, for the first question. who are the music artists you look up to and why?
Um, I would say that the people that I look up to the most are normally the producers and the writers behind the artist. I write and produce for a lot of other artists who I'm just super grateful that I get to work with and who trust me with their music. And I think through that process of working for others, I've learned how heavily collaborative the music industry is. And so I think some of the people that I look up to the most would be artists and producers like Benny Blanco, Brett McLaughlin, who goes by Leland, is behind Troye Sivan, and I think the work he's done with him is just phenomenal.
Agreed.
Alex Hope is amazing. There's just so many. Michael Pollack is on every song nowadays. He came up with Ari Laugh Loud, and he's just been killing it lately. Charlie XCX, and I think my favorite songwriters, I think the LGBT community has created a really awesome pop scene for themselves, and everything they crush everything. It sounds, I really do think pop music has reached its peak a little bit right now, and maybe I'm biased for saying that because I'm working at it right now. But I really love the people in the industry right now. I think there's some amazing songs coming out, and I think people are starting to be more open, especially with Spotify and Tidal starting to show credits on songs for the producers and mix engineers. I think now is the best time to be a songwriter and the producer in the industry. And those are the people that I look up to the most, the guys that are just kind of like behind the computer that you don't necessarily know are there, but really take the song to a home run.
Yeah. I like that answer. I really do. I think you're probably one of the first people to actually say that when I asked that question. I think you're like one of the first people to actually thank the people and just want to, who you look up to are the people behind the huge music artists. So I really like that. You're like, I think definitely one of the first people to actually acknowledge that. So I think that's awesome.
And I think something that has to be acknowledged in that, and I know this as a producer, is you can only work with so much. So these artists are amazing. Like, they have to be amazing in order for a producer to bring out such an amazing song out of them. And the artists are absolutely an integral part of the process. So in me saying that, I'm not saying that they're doing all of the work and the artist does nothing, but it does have to be recognized that there's some amazing people that work together to create these songs, and it's not just one person.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I just think that's great that you definitely take and acknowledge, just the people behind the people. So it's great. Going on to the number 3 question, Noah, you said, you mostly, for right now, you mostly kind of go into pop, but how would you really describe your music and the sound of your music?
Yeah, so my sound personally on the records that you're hearing that I come out with, as far as songwriting goes, it's fair. I'd like to think that I have a fairly cohesive melodic sound. I write, in a certain way, in a certain structure that's definitely apparent no matter who I'm writing for. I tell a story, and that sound manifests itself in different ways depending on the song. Definitely, the songs that are out right now are actually some of them 4 years old. There's nothing out right now that is less than 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
So all of the songs that what I sound like right now is very different than all of the stuff that's out on Spotify and Apple Music, and I'm working on getting some of that stuff out. I definitely think back then my big influences were Lorde and Troye Sivan, and I was trying to put myself into that little like alt indie, like edgy Jack Antonoff pocket of pop music. And I think I was really nervous to dive into like a true pop sound. And with this new record, it's very Latin inspired. I really love Latin American music.
Oh.
I really love reggaeton beats and songs. I'm just obsessed with it. And I think that's worked its way into my sound a lot. And I've become more comfortable making the music that I make and making pop music since I've been able to find such a lovely community of people that also do it nowadays. My new stuff is definitely more pop. And I couldn't do anything that I do without, I actually have a producer that I work with, Avery Bizdick, who's just phenomenal, who sort of took me under his wings a few years ago and has sort of mentored me and is the reason that I can produce for others and do what I do. And he's always a part of the production process of my songs. I can write for other people, but when it comes to my own stuff, I always need that extra ear.
Of course.
just to make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, it's easy to be objective when you're writing for someone else and be like, okay, this sounds too similar to this, or this sounds too similar to this. But when you're writing your own thing, you get really emotionally attached to something, and it's really hard to keep objectivity. So I think it's important for everybody to have someone else in the process, and I'm really fortunate to have him. So that's my sound. It's a combination of the two of us.
I love it. I definitely love it. If we actually ever meet, we need a music sesh because your music is just the same. Music taste is just the same as mine. I love the Latin. I love the reggae, and I too also was raised with a little bit of country. I do know some country. I am very proud to say I know some good country, the good old
That's good
classics, Johnny
country.
Cash, Patsy Cline. I was raised on an old school country, so I definitely know about it.
George Strait, Reba McEntire. There's a few.
Or George Strait. I was just about
Yeah.
to say, my mom is a huge George Strait fan. She pretty much worships the ground that he walks on, and she loves Reba McEntire. So, oh yes,
Yeah.
I was just about to go there. So now we're going on to the number 4. For the first time listeners of your music, what song would you suggest they hear from you to actually really get who you are as an artist?
That's a really interesting question. I think Merida or Crestfallen. I think both of them needs to be listened to. They're both very different songs, and I think together they encompass who I am as an artist. I think Crestfallen takes a more serious approach. Lyrically, it's got a lot more depth to it. But I think Merida instrumentally speaks for itself, and I really like that about that song. And I think the dynamics of that song say a lot about my preferences as a songwriter. That's really one of my favorites that I've gotten to write, and the story behind it, and just sort of all the songs that I write are a story, are an experience that I've had that then I've gone and written about. Especially Merida, and I think that one is very literal, and that's my favorite thing about it. Is I like songs that are just like, this is tell it how it is.
Yeah, me too. Oh yeah, I definitely get you. That's why I love Charlie XCX, because she does tell it as it is, and I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I love her. She tells it as it is. I just love it. Kind of going, playing off of that question a little bit more. When people hear your songs, what message do you hope they actually take from it?
Ooh, that's also a very good question. It depends on the song. At the end of the day, if someone listens to my song and they feel something, then I've done my job. That's really it. If they listen to it and they relate it to an experience they've had, that I've gotten messages from people specifically about Crestfallen that are like, I've been going through this relationship and I really relate to this, and this is basically what I've been thinking, and nobody else has put it into words quite like it's been said, but this is the first time it's been said, and I've been like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That feels really rewarding. Even if I put on a song and someone's just like nodding their head to it, that for me is a win. Like, even if it just makes you want to dance, that's a win for me. All I care is that somebody feels something. And, there's people out there that it's not for them. And I guess if I made something that makes them feel so strongly against it, I still made them feel something. So there's still something there. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me is, does somebody feel something? And I try to be as authentic as possible when I write. And I'd like to think that even though the people listening don't necessarily know me personally, they can feel that authenticity, and it makes the songs more relatable.
Oh yeah, I am loving that. I am loving that. I'm really glad that that's how you feel, especially with your songs inside, when you just want someone to feel something, and it's great. And I'm loving that. I'm loving how just honest, and again, I guess how you said authentic you are as an artist, and how you and honestly speak about it. So I think that is quite impressive.
Yeah, and music can be sad, but it can also be fun. Like, if, Love You a Lot, latest song on my record, like, I didn't have a pop song. That was it. Like, I wrote that. That was the only time I've ever, obviously it is a story, but that's the only time I've ever written a song and sat down to write a song. And I was like, I just want a pop song. Like, I need something I can dance to. And I did. And, like, sometimes that's a great song just because it makes you dance.
Exactly.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, sad and meaningful and, have the story every time. Obviously, I want my music to hold substance, but if that substance is, it's going to make you groove to it, like I consider that a success.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely love that. I definitely love the songs that, I can dance to. Granted, I'm not dancing on beat, but I am dancing. And I feel like that is, I'm being honest, I'm not dancing on beat, but I am dancing. So I feel like I'm making an effort. That's about as much as I can get with dancing. I'm making an effort.
I've been told that I dance like a cooked spaghetti. Like if you hold a noodle up and like dangle it, like that's how I dance. I still do it, but I've been told that I noodle dance.
I can do like a really good chair dance. Like if anyone need a chair dance, I can do it. Just like sit in a chair and I can just like groove. But standing up, I feel like I feel like slinky. I feel like I'm just going everywhere and I'm just not making any sense with it. So I am right there with you. I can't. Yeah, I look like a wet noodle as I'm dancing. It's pretty embarrassing. It's pretty embarrassing. Going on to number 6 question, Noah. You've already had some really pretty groundbreaking success. But if people only forget, you're only 17 years old. How do you balance your music career, your growing music career, while still navigating teen life, which we all know is not easy?
Yeah. So I think a big reason that I'm able to do what I do, and I've, been fortunate enough to have the success that I have and had the time and space to work to gain, the success I had and have, is because I don't have a normal teenage life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've never attended a formal education. I've never been in like a school system for more than a few weeks one time, but I just don't count it.
Right.
It's such a pin drop in my life. I've never attended a formal education. So the time that most people would have spent doing that, I had a full-time job. I started working a full-time job when I was 13. I at a coffee shop. I took classes to become a barista. It was like 36 hours of classes. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
And I went into work as a barista, and I did that for 4 years. I worked, I don't know if it was entirely legal, but nobody's been on my back yet. But I worked definitely more than I was allowed to. I worked something like 5 to 6 days a week, a solid 8 to 9 hours a day. It was like a full-time gig instead of school to pay for my music, to be able to afford to do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And pay for, like you said, studio time or flights or, when I started producing for other people, I worked for free for 3 years before I started charging clients.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've worked for solely royalty on the back end just so I could get my name on as many things as possible. And I didn't necessarily have the connections or the opportunity to work with super large artists. So I was going, in Charleston, I was like walking around College of Charleston, like asking people and like going to like the music halls and like trying to hear people sing just to see if someone like was good enough that maybe I could like write a song and produce it for them and they could sing it. That way I could have like my name on one more thing. And that was how I worked for 3 years. Was like when I was at the coffee shop, I would leave, I would come home and I would write and I would produce and I would just try to get, as many artists under my belt and try to build as many artists as I can. And that's still what I do. I'm not like the write a song and send it out and like shop it and do singles. Like I'm really fortunate that all of my artists that I work with, I'm the album guy. Like they come to me, they're like, this is what I want to sound like. And I'm there for the whole ride. I'm always in touch with them and we become, a duo, a team to make the music, for 10 or 12 songs and I stay in the process. And so that's super awesome. But that's why I have had the opportunity to gain the success that I have was just because I have a wonderful family. And I've been really fortunate to live a lifestyle that grants me the free time and the space to do what I want and follow my passion in music.
Mm-hmm.
And make time to do that and work.
Work.
Work. Yeah. Like it is, I love my job and it is work. I don't always want to sit down and tune vocals for 6 hours and
right, of course.
That's not necessarily fun. The end product is amazing, but nobody likes tuning vocals.
Nobody likes tuning vocals. No, of course not. not for 6 hours at least.
Yeah, like I'm grateful that I get to work with these artists, and I can recognize that just like any job, like there are times where I'd rather be like not working.
Well, of course. You're only,
Yeah.
I mean, hello. You're only
Right.
17. Of course you're going to have those days.
Yeah.
So, but that's actually really impressive, though, that you actually had that, mindset, when you were beginning to, try to hear singers and try to find someone that's good enough so you can write for them. Because usually when I hear somebody talk about that, it's like somebody in their 20s, someone in their 30s, but 17, you've already had that mindset, I need to find some good artists so we can collaborate and, get my name out there. I really find that super impressive. I do.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the first record that I did was it was an EP called Wide Eyes that I co-wrote and produced and mixed for an artist named Kayshawn at College Charleston. I think I was 13, 14 at the time.
Wow.
And that's still out. That's still out on streaming platforms.
That is insane.
Yeah, that was a long time. Man, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, like give yourself a second to actually think about that.
Those
That was
are
like 3 years ago.
Yeah, and listening back, there's obviously things that I listened to, and I'm like, man, that could have changed. There was no bass on that record. I wasn't putting bass in my songs at the time. Like all the low end was just the kick drum. There was no bass in any of the songs. I didn't even know that was like a thing. It was bass. It's such a simple like thing, but listening back, there is none. And mixing records nowadays, I still go back to those. And there's something about not knowing the technical side of music as you just working on like what feels and what sounds good. And those mixers are still some of the best mixes that I've ever done. And it's crazy listening back because I didn't have the tools that I have now. I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. And somehow those mixes, I still listen back and I'm like, how did I get that sounding so tight, And I'm sure if I opened up the sessions, I did things that I would never do today. And I would be like, why would you have made that decision? But it sounds good. Like I listen back and I'm like, that's a really tight record. So it's so interesting.
Oh my God. Oh, this is just awesome. I am loving this. This is great. I mean, I've never talked to somebody like who's had this like so much success, but almost this it's like sometimes I feel like I'm not even talking to a 17-year-old. Has anyone ever told you that?
I get told that every day.
Okay, cool.
Every day, every minute. Yeah.
I really feel like I'm just talking to an artist that's been in this for 30-something years, and you're just like returning after minutes. We're like, yeah, that is crazy. You know what? I want to make sure the TMB audience follows you and your work. Where are you at on social media?
Yes, so my social media handle is the same across the board: Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, or not on Spotify, but Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. Just Noah Taylor Songs. So you can find me on all those places. I am on Spotify as Noah Taylor. I am on Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, all the places that you'll stream music. I'm also on YouTube, which I'm not sure. I have a Vivo account and I also have a regular account, and I think they're getting merged right now. But at the time of this, I'm not sure if they're one and the same. But yeah, you can find me in all the places. SoundCloud's also Noah Taylor Songs. Yeah, it's the same everywhere.
Okay, I want to make sure, audience, hopefully after the podcast, after the interview, you guys go out, you follow him, you follow his music, everything. This kid, it just already, like I said, 17 is already accomplished and done so much with music. So make sure you guys definitely check that out.
And Spotify, follows on Spotify really do a lot to help support artists. Artists don't talk about Spotify very much. They're always plugging their Instagrams, but it really does a lot to help us on Spotify, even just one follow. And my discography's up on there if you want to listen to all the songs that I produce for other artists.
Oh yeah. So we definitely encourage Spotify. Well, we here at TMB love Spotify anyways. So I definitely encourage everybody, Spotify, Noah Taylor, get to know this kid, seriously. Coming up to the last few questions there, Mr. Taylor. As a singer, as a songwriter, and pretty much as in your music career, just in general, what goals do you hope to accomplish? What do you hope to reach? What feat do you hope to reach?
I want to have a number one. I want to have a number one charting song on Billboard for a day or for 5 minutes. I have faith.
He said, "I have faith." He said, "For 5 minutes, I have faith."
Yes, I think for me, I would love to be able to tour as an artist with someone I really love, whether it's opening or even headlining. I'd be fine with either. I think that would be an amazing opportunity. I think the biggest thing in my career that would just make for me is just getting the chance to write for all the people that I love and write with all the people that I love. Like I was saying earlier, Benny Blanco and the Michael Pollacks and the Alex Hopes and the Ben Abrahams, and you know, Jackson Foote and you know, Lute is wonderful, and Monsters and Strangers. All these people, they have sort of this community and they're all working on projects together. And my dream would really just be like be in the room with those people and making, you know, if someone wants to give me a publishing deal and put me in a room with all of these people for all these artists, that would be wonderful. That would just be the dream, is just to work on projects that I really love all the time. Obviously, I have to, you know, pay for things and afford to make the music and pay for the studio. And I try to only take on projects that I really, really love. And sometimes you have to pay the bills. And so to be in a position where I'm always working with artists that, you know, I just really love and I'm really big fans of, that would be a really wonderful position. Not that I'm not grateful for all of the people that work with me. Thank you so much.
Of course. No, that would be awesome. It would be cool to see you on tour as an artist, definitely as an opener. So I think that would be awesome. And I think, you know, that would be a huge start. You know, Noah, going on to the number 9, what would you say is your proudest moment in your career so far? I know you're only 17, but what would you say is your proudest moment so far?
Oh man. That's really difficult. I mean, there have been some really cool moments in my career. As far as getting to work with artists that I grew up really admiring and listening to, or working in studios that I always wanted to go to. I got to cut vocals with someone one time who has worked on some records that are pretty phenomenal, and that was a pretty insane experience. I didn't know he was going to be there. I showed up to cut vocals for a client, and he was like, "Hey, actually, we just want you to sit in the session. We've got this other guy cutting vocals," and he came in, and I was like, "Oh my god." And I'm blanking on his name, which is why I'm not saying it. It's not like it's his first name is JP. I don't know. We call him JP. He works he owns Melrose Sound in LA. And he's done some insane records, Dua Lipa, Bruno Mars, and like Black Eyed Peas, and he's crazy. It was super cool to meet him and watch him work. I think the songs that I'm working on right now might be the proudest moment of my career. Even though they're not out, I'm finally making music that like feels really right and really good, and just feels like a great representation of who I want to be as an artist. And I'm really excited about it, and I'm ready to release it eventually.
Yes.
Right now is the proudest moment in my career. I'm working with some awesome artists.
Yes. I love that. And I know your debut album will be dropping out here soon, correct?
It's up in the air. There is an album done, and it's the one that's been done for 3 years now.
It's the one that's been done for 3 years?
Yeah. And so there's another one that I'm working on at the moment, and we're 7 songs into it, 7 out of 10. And there's conversation. I act like there's a massive team, but it's, you know, me and like friends. Like 1 or 2 other people. Right.
I did think of a huge team.
I
was thinking of a huge
team. I have no manager, I have no publicist. It is me behind the reins at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, everything is just me. So there's a lot of conversation between myself about whether or not I want to just wait a couple of months and release the new record, and maybe just run the rest of these songs out as singles, or if it's worth releasing an album. The old one, obviously I love those songs, and they're not a great representation of who I am now or who I am as an artist. You know, those songs have been finished. They were produced and recorded 2 years ago now, and some of them were written, 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Crave and Hush I was 12 and 13 when I wrote those, and they just came out.
Oh, Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like Merida and Crestfallen and Love You a Lot are pretty, probably 2 or 3 years ago. But even still, it's one of those things where I love those songs, and it's not a great representation of who I am now or the music that I'm making now or sort of what I want to be known for. So I walk this line of like, is it better to get content out and keep people engaged, or is it better to release things that are really true to what I want to be making? So it's a dilemma.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see why you're having a conversation about yourself with this, because it is. That's that is a huge dilemma. Huge dilemma.
Yeah. And every artist in the industry goes through that dilemma because
Of
the
course.
process is just so long
Mm-hmm.
for releasing music. It really is. And it's so expensive. Mixing and mastering, mixing will cost you more than the production and the studio time of the song sometimes. But it's so integral. It's so important that you get, a good mix.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a long process.
Yeah, I honestly, I will genuinely admit, I did not know it takes that long, or sometimes it would take that long for a song to be released or something like that. Because when singers, do a certain song that was like released a couple of years ago, they have a way of making it sound so brand new, like they just, came up with it, the other day, and they're just dropping it now. So, yeah, did not realize it took that long sometimes for a song to be released.
It
Whoa.
doesn't always. I was in a
Right.
position where I wasn't able to afford to finish the record for a really long time. And part of that was just part of that was financial, and a part of that was just me procrastinating on releasing it because I was nervous.
Right.
um, and it doesn't always take that long. And of course, if you're a larger artist, sometimes even the distribution process can be quickened. Those guys can get songs out in 24 hours of the final master hitting their their inbox. For somebody like me, we're normally releasing a song. We actually send it out probably 7 to 8 weeks prior to when it actually comes out. It's not a quick process getting it on stores. In order to do it the right way and have time to talk to blogs and playlist push and all
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, it's still a process though, but yeah, it's eye opener, but still a process.
Yeah.
Um, Going on to the final question, Mr. Noah. If you had a chance right now to collaborate and make a song with any artist you would like, who would you like to collaborate with?
This question scares me.
This question
it
scares
always it always does. It always does. I get asked this a lot. Um Man, it is so difficult to pick one. It really is. My gut instinct would be to say I would say my gut instinct would be to say some producer or writer. Like I said earlier, I would love to write with Michael Pollack. I would love to do a song with Benny Blanco. He's been behind so many records that I love.
me.
As far as an artist goes, I mean, I would love to work with Troye Sivan. I would love to work with Lauv. Julia Michaels, fantastic. Um, it's just so hard. It's so hard to pick one. Charlie XCX would be amazing. There's definitely a few lesser known artists who I think are just ridiculously talented and
Mm-hmm.
have some songs that always blow me out of the water that, I would love to work with. Daniela Andrade is one of them. I don't know if you know who she is. But her EP Shore it was a visual EP. It had 4 music videos for the 4 songs, and it's forever going to be one of my favorite records.
Yeah.
And I would love to write for Casey Musgraves. I would say that would tie all of my.
Oh yes,
I'll
for
take
sure.
any of those projects. I can't just pick one. I'm sorry.
No, of course not. Of course
I
not. We wouldn't
can't.
want you to just pick one. So all those choices are pretty much amazing. Love, Choice One, all of that. That's awesome. They're huge artists that we admire here, especially here at TNB. So that would be really great to see that type of
You
collaboration
know
and
what?
stuff like that.
I'm sorry. I can pick one.
Okay.
If I had the chance to work with one artist, I would work with O Wonder. That would
Oh.
be my first pick.
Aha.
Is working with them for sure, no question.
We got you to pick. We got you to
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
Love it. I love it. Like I said, all those artists, honestly, would be great. Honestly, they've all really are changing the landscape of music. So honestly, all those artists would just be really great for you to work with. But Mr. Taylor, I would have to say I so love talking with you. You are just definitely an artist to definitely know about, and you definitely have a clear vision of your music and the path that you want to take it on. So we cannot wait to see, how you continue to grow as a music artist.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Your energy has been amazing. It's been so
Thank
easy
you.
and fun
Thank you.
to
I
to talk
appreciate
with
that.
you.
That's what we hope to have here at TNB. We want to keep everything fun. We want to enjoy
Yeah,
our conversation here. So I'm glad you're able to feel that way. That's awesome. The goal has been accomplished.
absolutely. We'll have to do this again in 6 years when the podcast is super big and I'm touring full time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Of course, TNB audience, make sure you follow Mr. Noah Taylor on Instagram, Twitter, and of course Spotify. Check out all of his music. Keep an eye out, of course, on more music and of course his more albums as his as he confessed, as he has a conversation with himself about it. Keep on with Instagram so he can keep people posted, so we can definitely know about it. But definitely make sure you guys follow Noah. He's just going to be a huge artist here and in the next few years. So we definitely want to say that we talked to him first on TNB. So we want to thank our guest, Mr. Taylor, again. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
All right, of course, you guys know I'm your hostess with the mostest, Miss Simone Jackson. I will be back with another great episode of TNB with Miss J. But until then, you guys, you stay beautiful, you stay kind, and we will talk with y'all soon. But until then, have a great day, everybody. Bye.